The judge looked at her and used 5 words almost no one expected. Controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, purposeful. That was July of 2023. Mackenzie Shirilla was 18 years old. She sat in a beige correctional uniform. She watched a verdict change her life. Then for almost 3 years she said nothing publicly, no interviews, no statements, no defense, until 2 weeks ago. The Netflix documentary called The Crash dropped on May 15, 2026. For the first time, Mackenzie Shirilla sat in front of a camera. She told her side. And the investigators who built the original case did not stay quiet. Some of them wish she had never spoken at all. Tonight on Grim Records, this is the case file behind a story that the internet thought was closed. Strongsville, Ohio. A quiet suburb southwest of Cleveland. The kind of place where neighbors know the school district by heart. The kind of place where serious crime is rare enough that residents still remember the addresses. On the morning of July 31st, 2022, that calm broke. It was a Sunday, just after 8 in the morning. Surveillance cameras at a small industrial park captured a black BMW M4 moving down the street. It was Mackenzie Shirilla behind the wheel. She was 17 years old. In the passenger seat was her boyfriend Dominic Russo, 20 years old. In the back seat was Davion Flanagan, 19 years old. None of them would walk away from that morning. Investigators would later determine the BMW was traveling at over 100 miles per hour. The road they were on was a quiet industrial street. The posted speed was 35. The car did not slow, it did not turn. It hit a brick warehouse wall directly. The impact was total. Both Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan died at the scene. Mackenzie Shirilla survived. She was rushed to Metro Health Medical Center with serious injuries. She would recover. 2 passengers were gone. 1 driver was alive. And that imbalance alone made every investigator look twice. If this is your first time on Grim Records, this is what we do. We open the cases the internet skipped past. We respect every victim. And we tell you exactly what the evidence said. Subscribe if you want the rest of these files. When the police arrived, they treated it as a tragic crash. A teenager, a high-powered car, a wet morning. It looked at first glance like every cautionary tale about young drivers and expensive vehicles. Then the surveillance footage came in. The footage did not show a panicked driver. It did not show evasive movement. It did not show a swerve. It did not show brake lights. According to investigators, the BMW accelerated straight into the wall. No correction, no fight, just impact. That changed the case. A normal crash leaves marks of struggle. A driver tries to save the car. A driver tries to save themselves. The brake pedal gets stamped. The wheel gets jerked. The body posture goes rigid. None of that showed up here. Surveillance, vehicle data, road analysis. Every system told the same story. The car did not lose control. The driver chose the wall. That conclusion changed how the case was charged. What started as a tragic accident became an active murder investigation. That word matters. Murder. In Ohio law, that elevates everything. By March of 2023, Mackenzie Shirilla was facing 2 counts of aggravated murder, plus felonious assault, plus aggravated vehicular homicide, plus drug possession counts. The case went to trial. She chose to waive her right to a jury and have her case decided by a judge alone. That single decision became one of the most discussed legal choices of the year. Take a second and ask yourself why a defendant facing aggravated murder would choose only a judge. A jury can be unpredictable. A judge can be predictable. A jury can sympathize with a 17-year-old girl. A judge weighs only the evidence. Mackenzie chose the second route. Drop a comment below if you would have made the same call. The trial unfolded in Cuyahoga County. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo presided. No relation to the victim Dominic Russo. The prosecution argued the BMW crash was not an accident. It was an intentional act. They built their argument from 3 pillars. Pillar 1, the surveillance video. The car never turned. The car never braked. The car accelerated. That was not a body losing control. That was a body in command of the vehicle. Pillar 2, the relationship. According to friends and family testimony entered at trial, The relationship between Mackenzie and Dominic had been turbulent. Witnesses described arguments. Witnesses described threats. The prosecution argued there was motive in the days before the crash. Pillar 3, the drugs. Investigators recovered illegal substances inside the vehicle. That introduced additional charges and additional layers of context. The defense pushed back hard. Mackenzie's attorneys argued she had no intention to harm anyone. They said it was a chaotic situation. They said she lost control of the car. They said the substances in the vehicle may have contributed to the loss of judgment. They pleaded that a teenager who survived a crash that killed 2 people was already serving a lifelong sentence in her own mind. The judge listened. The judge took the case under deliberation, and on August 14, 2023, the verdict landed. Guilty on the most serious counts: aggravated murder, murder, felonious assault, aggravated vehicular homicide, and then came the sentencing. Mackenzie Shirilla received 15 years to life. She would not be eligible for parole consideration until she reached her 30s. And it was during the sentencing that Judge Russo delivered the words that would define this case for years. She said the actions of the defendant were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. 5 words. Read like 5 charges. Those 5 words went viral. Every true crime channel quoted them. Every newspaper printed them. Within days, the Shirilla case was a national story. 2 young men dead, a teenage driver in prison, and a courtroom statement that erased the possibility of accident from public memory. Then silence, for 2 years and 9 months. No press, no statements, no interviews, no fundraisers, no appeals heard publicly. Just incarceration and the slow grind of an appeal process behind closed doors. Until May 15, 2026, the Netflix documentary called The Crash premiered. The streaming platform had built it with the cooperation of multiple sides: family members, investigators, attorneys, and for the first time, Mackenzie Shirilla herself. In her first on-camera interview since the verdict, she addressed the case. She did not deny driving the car, she did not deny the deaths, but she described that morning differently from what the prosecution argued. According to her version, her memory of the moments before impact is fragmented. She described a sense of overwhelming panic. She described a feeling of dissociation. She told the camera she does not remember choosing the wall. She told the camera she does not remember the speedometer. She told the camera she does not even remember the warehouse. She framed her actions not as deliberate, but as a young person in a state of crisis. She apologized, she cried, she used the phrase, "I would give my life to bring them back." That clip ended up on every social platform within hours of release. Comment below right now. Do you believe a person can do something purposeful without remembering it? Or do you think the original verdict is correct? Both sides of that question now define the case, because almost immediately after the documentary aired, investigators reacted. Multiple law enforcement personnel who worked on the original case have publicly stated they do not accept the revised narrative. They argue the surveillance evidence stands. They argue the relationship evidence stands. They argue the drug evidence stands. They argue dissociation is not a medical defense in Ohio law in this case. They argue the documentary creates emotional context for a verdict that was already decided on hard evidence. Some of them used a phrase that became its own headline. They said her interview was, quote, "exactly what we expected, exactly when we expected it," end quote. That cynicism is not random. It is procedural. Investigators are trained to view late-stage public statements as appeal strategy. A documentary creates public sympathy. Public sympathy can shift media coverage. Media coverage can affect future parole boards. Parole boards review cases years later under public pressure. The investigators know this loop, and they are not pretending they do not. That is why some of them wish she had not spoken. Not because they are afraid of the truth, because they believe the truth has already been spoken once in court, and now the case is being relitigated in living rooms instead of in courthouses. Take a second. Think about the people the prosecution called the focus, Dominic Russo. He was 20 years old. Family members described him as a young man who was working, planning his next steps. navigating a relationship that those close to him already knew was unstable. Davion Flanagan. He was 19 years old. He was a passenger. He was, according to friends who testified, a peripheral figure in the relationship. He was the one who happened to be in the back seat that morning. He did not survive a crash, he did not steer. These are the two names that often disappear from the headlines. The case gets called the Shirilla case. The case rarely gets called the Russo and Flanagan case. That is one of the quiet failures of every viral true crime story. The driver becomes the brand. The victims become footnotes. Grim Records does not work that way. Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan deserve to be named every time this case is discussed, not as background. As the entire reason the case exists, if you respect the way this channel handles cases, comment the word Russo Flanagan below. Their names need to stay in the conversation. The legal landscape now has multiple layers running at once. Layer 1. Mackenzie Shirilla's conviction stands. She remains incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Her 15-year-to-life sentence has not been altered. Layer 2. Her legal team has been pursuing appeals through the Ohio appellate system. Standard process, slow timeline. Layer 3. The Netflix documentary is now part of the public record around the case. That does not affect the conviction directly, but it can affect how parole boards perceive her decades from now. Layer 4. Civil suits. Family members of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan have legal options that move independently of the criminal case. Layer 5. Public opinion. That layer has shifted before. After the verdict, most coverage assumed the case was closed. After the documentary, conversations on social platforms have split into two camps. One camp believes the original verdict is exactly correct. They cite the surveillance footage, they cite the prosecution evidence, they cite Judge Russo's 5 words. The other camp believes the documentary reveals new context. Mental state, substance influence, adolescent brain development, witness reliability. Both camps are loud right now, and both camps are doing what the case was always going to do. They are dragging this story back into the present tense. There is one more layer that almost no one is talking about. The Strongsville community. 2 young men died in a quiet suburb. Families lost sons. Friends lost peers. A school district lost classmates. A neighborhood lost the illusion that nothing this bad happens here. That cost does not get easier because a documentary exists. It does not get easier because a defendant speaks. It does not get easier because hashtags trend. The cost stays the same. 2 people are gone. Their families have lived with that since the summer of 2022. If this case made you stop, hit subscribe so Grim Records can keep going behind the headlines. Now, the case file ends with one question that nobody can answer for sure. Did she choose the wall, or did the wall choose her? The court answered controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. The documentary answers panic, dissociation, and unbearable youth. 2 answers: 1 crash, 2 passengers gone, 1 driver still serving time, and a piece of brick wall in Strongsville that became the most documented building in Northeast Ohio. If you have a strong opinion on this case, share it in the comments. Just please keep the names of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan in the conversation. They are the reason this case file exists, and Grim Records will keep telling these stories with their names at the front. Like this video if you stayed all the way through. Share it with someone who follows this case.